Hello everybody and welcome to WTS 239. My name's Danny Murray.
And I'm Graham Merrigan. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, bright nights are well and truly in.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't
it? The weather apps are gaslighting the whole country. They're telling us it's raining when it's actually sunshine out. I'm not having it. I'm coming for Apple.
This past Sunday, I said to myself, my weather app told me that there was thunderstorms from 2 to half 4. And I said to myself, I'll walk the dog at 5:30 and I'll just relax then for the afternoon. And I went for a nap. Lovely nap. And I woke up and the sun is beaming. There's no sign of rain. There's no sign of a thunderstorm. I didn't hear any thunder or lightning. Obviously, you're not going to hear lightning, but I didn't hear any thunder.
Well, you can if it's the not just sheet lightning. If it's fork lightning, it makes the old crackle noise, doesn't it? But
I used to think that was called forb lightning.
Forb lightning, lovely.
Forb.
Yeah, it's
fork,
method.
Isn't it?
It's fork. Yeah, well, that's what I know it as well.
Because it's like a fork when you see it.
Yeah, it's Neffet, isn't it? Neffet are trying to tell us the weather's bad to stop us mingling.
To keep us in. That's it.
That's the conspiracy theory. That and lockdown was only a thing to change the batteries and all the boards. That's another one that I heard.
Exactly.
Mad things out there. I guess this week, Mero.
Yeah, I guess this week. I suppose this came about through a friend of the show, long-time listener, Shane Fitz, doing bits. And
the great Shane Fitz. Give him his proper
title. The great Shane Fitz doing bits. And Larry Mahony Jr., who's a great friend of mine and Shane's cousin. Larry's father, Larry Mahony Senior, Shane's uncle, who is a long-time football coach, has finally released a book called Let the Players Play. And
a lifetime of coaching in this.
A lifetime of coaching, lifetime of experience, an absolute diamond of a man. And we said we'd have him on to talk about all things coaching and the book. So here's our interview.
Well, I'll just say we left it quite late in the interview to get the actual. Now, well, Lar probably left it quite late because he was regaling us with stories through the generations.
He was too giddy. I could sense it in him. He was far too giddy.
Very enjoyable stories too. A few beauts in there for any Rovers fans as well. But if you check out bigpicturecoachingireland.com, you'll be able to check out Let the Players Play. And
the forward in the book by current Ireland senior men's team manager Stephen Kenny as well.
Exactly, and he has testimonials from Anya O'Gorman and everything there as well. He's if you're in any way involved with schoolboy or you're doing coaching, lads, be well worth checking out. bigpicturecoachingireland.com.
And the book's called Let the Players Play. And here's our interview with Lawrence Mahony. Joining us now is author of the book Let the Players Play, a guide to grassroots coaching in small-sided games. Right, you can go into that. His voice you've just heard there. It's Lawrence Mahony Senior, not to be mistaken with the legendary Lawrence Mahon Jr., which is Larry Mahon the 7th. So you're Larry Mahon, 6th.
The 6th, yeah.
Up the 6th. How are you, Larry? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
The book is soon to be New York bestseller, I'm hearing.
Well, that's the plan anyway. We hope so, Yeah. We have to wait and see.
What made you write a book, Larry?
It's always sort of been in me, Graham. I've been always tipping away. Like I worked for a while. I worked for a long while with the FAI on staff and the coaching courses, and it was my job to sort of do all the handouts and do the presentations, the PowerPoints and stuff like that, So I'd always sort of been tipping away at it, and what pushed me over the edge to get it finished was obviously the same as another million books over the last year. It's a lockdown book, I forced myself to have the discipline to sit down literally for 4 hours every day and work away at it,
Yeah. So you're playing football all your life. So at what level of success would you have had, say, as a schoolboy footballer or even into early adulthood?
Yeah, well, I was an international. I was schoolboy international. So excellent. I was on. I think it was St. Joseph's best ever team, most successful team. That was Jimmy Whelan's team with the likes of Anto Whelan and Chippy Devlin and Tony Clark. David Kane, John Murray, Eddie Kelly, all of those players who went on to be really, really successful players, you know. So we sort of won everything all the way up. And
brilliant.
then
What year was this?
This was from, come on now, Graham.
1934, was it?
That was at the time when there was no under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, under 11s league. We started at under 12, even though we were under 11. Now that would have been, well, it would have been around the end of the 60s, the start of the 70s.
And when you say the most successful club, like just winning everything for
our team. Now, when I say our team, I was on it up to under 16, and then I went. Some would say I made a silly move, an ambitious move to try and get myself into the League of Ireland and get myself away. I went and I joined Bohemians at the under 17 season. I know, yeah. But there's more. Don't worry about that, Graham. There's a Rover installment to come. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll
let it away.
I was away a few times. I was in United. I was at Preston. I was at Luton. And,
all on trial, is it?
I have a sad story to tell there. If you're interested in any sad stories, you know.
Go for it. Yeah, tell us.
So, well, luck had a big part to play in it. You know, I'm not saying I had the necessary ability or anything like that, but I was very, very unlucky. I went to United at 15. I was a right back. I'd never played anywhere else except right back for Joe's. Right. When we went over there on trial, they were looking for someone to play left back, and I volunteered. So, and I played really, really well. And from left back, which was probably unheard of at the time, even in the trial games, I scored a goal at left back, right? So the legendary scout Billy Bean came back to me and he said, well done, you did really, really well. You did well enough to sign, but, right? And it was a big but, right? So the big but was, we've too many fullbacks on the staff. Now, if it happened now, I would turn around and I would say, well, how come you asked me to go over in the first place? But this was the story that you told me, right? Now, Billy Bean, who was I don't know whether you guys would have heard of him, but he was sort of a legendary scout around here.
Absolutely.
You would have heard. So Billy was really, really nice, man. Billy said to me, look, because you were so unlucky, he says, I'll get you a trial anywhere else you want. Okay, so he said, any other club, I have the connections, I'll get you a trial at any other club. All right? So he mentioned Everton, he mentioned Manchester City, right? He mentioned 3 or 4 different clubs, but he also mentioned Preston North End, right? And he mentioned Preston North End because Bobby Charlton was the manager, right? So now, I don't know how it happened, but I think back then, obviously the disease has left me, but I think I was a Manchester United fan back then, right? And
is Larry Jr. aware of this?
Yeah, I'm not sure now. It's so far back in time now, I can't really remember now whether I was or wasn't. But I certainly know that I wanted to go and meet Bobby Charlton. And also Nobby Stiles was the assistant manager. So these were teammates of the greatest footballer ever, right? Which would be our own George Best, right? So I had to go and see them. And plus also schoolboy logic, because my dad really didn't have much of a role to play. That was the old days when your dads didn't talk to you too much and that, you know. So my dad didn't have much of a role. So I sort of jumped at the idea and I was thinking, well, if I'm nearly good enough to sign for Manchester United, well, then surely I'll walk into Preston's first game, you know, at 15. Right? Yeah. So I was in Preston 3 days, right, and Bobby Charlton resigned. Right. So chapter 2 of the bad luck story. Right?
Oh my God.
So I was left there by myself in the digs by myself, and I honestly don't think anyone in the club knew who I was or what I was supposed to be there for. And I was sort of going in every morning, training. You know, one of the coaches took it upon himself, saying that young lad needs a bit of discipline. So he gave me. That's back in the bad old days when the apprentices used to clean the place. So the first time in my life I ever cleaned a bathroom was in Preston in 1975. Up to that, my mother had spoiled me and I hadn't been near. So I was doing all the jobs. I was going in training. We came to play Manchester United on the Saturday. I was in the panel to go and play a trial match with Manchester United. And again, the coach didn't know who I was. He says, who's this stranger on the sideline? And he didn't even play me. Right? So he didn't put me on, even though I was there supposedly to have a trial, you know. So I just got fed up. I just packed my bags. And luckily enough, my dad worked on the sea link at the time. Right? So I was able to ring up, get straight back onto the boat and come home, you know. Right, so then, so that's chapter 2, bad luck story. Right? So again, the course of the 3-day course struck again. When I was 20, I was over in Luton Town, right? I was, believe it or believe it not, over 3 days I had done really, really well. I played really well. The coaches had told me, look, we're delighted with you. We're absolutely delighted with you. Day 3, I broke my leg.
Fucking hell.
In a tackle with a guy that called Michael Small, but he wasn't small, right? Who went on to play with West Ham. So I don't think it was meant to be, you know. There's someone up there.
The signs there were there that it's just stay at home there, Larry.
Yeah. You'll have to forgive me for a minute now while I wipe away the tears. But anyway,
what were the experiences like over there, Larry, in comparison to say Ireland?
Manchester United was different because at the time it was such a big club. They actually took I think it was 32 trialists over. So we were only really training together. But we were training at the old training ground with the cliff. So we were literally on the same field besides the first team. So the only two I can actually remember, for some reason, I remember... I can actually remember the manager. I remember Tommy Doherty being there, and Jerry Daly was there. Or Jerry Daly, who played the Irish Jerry Daly, who was the Dublin lad, who played for Manchester United. I can't really remember any of the others, but I do remember us being beside them and seeing them every day that we were there and that, you know. And that was great because the boredom in the digs didn't kick in because they brought you out every night, you know. But then
so you remembered your experience with fondness, like back.
Oh yeah, look, I wouldn't have swapped it for the world, right? Because you know, it's like the old Brendan Bean said statement, right? You know, Brendan Bean used to say, "Look, I never went to school." He said, "But I met the scholars at the gate," you know. So I never became a professional, but I knew the professional world because I was around it, you know, and I wanted to get in it. And I think what happened then, when it didn't work out for me, then I got really, really desperate, you know. I wanted it so much that I think I tensed up, and you know, I didn't play as well as I could have. I didn't do as well as I should have after that, you know. Now I was with the reserve teams in Bohemians. I had a good stint in Dundalk as well. I was doing really well in Dundalk. I could say that I should have been in the Dundalk first team, but looking back now as a coach, I'm looking back and saying, well, I wouldn't have put that mad fella in the first team anyway. Despite the ability, because you know, you've probably heard the Borough legends about me, you know, but I was a little bit mad and stuff like that, you know. And looking back now, I can imagine why Jim McLaughlin was the manager who, you know, was historically the most successful manager ever in the League of Ireland. I wouldn't have trusted me either, you know. So he didn't put me in the first team.
Right. Do you mean like a red mist hothead, Larry?
No, totally off the wall, just doing mad things. I'll give you an example. Like, there was one time he came into the dressing room into one of the matches, right, and some lad made a mistake, right, of coming to a match, a League of Ireland B match with dirty boots, and McLaughlin absolutely lashed him out, you know. So he said, right, you lads, everyone get your boots out. So we went around the dressing room. Now I'm 17 or 18, so we went around the dressing room checking everyone's boots. I'm 17 and 18, and I went around the dressing room with my arm around the most successful manager in the League of Ireland, giving out to all the lads who are dirty boots as well, like, you know. So that was the sort of madness I'm talking about, you know.
What was his reaction?
I don't know. I think he was probably just stunned. I can't really,
who the hell is this guy?
I know he didn't fight me. I know he didn't give it out to me, but I think he was just stunned that this gobshite of a 17-year-old would walk around the dressing room with his arm around him, like, you know. And there was other things, pre-mobile phone. Like, we were based in Finglas because there was a team in Finglas called Raven Athletic, and they became the Dundalk youth team. So we were based in Finglas, more or less. So we used to get the bus from Finglas, which meant two bus rides from Dunleary for me out there. So I arrived for the bus one night for a game in Dundalk for one of the nighttime games under lights. And the bus had gone. Of course, pre-mobile phone, I didn't know what happened. So, of course, did the obvious thing. I jumped into a taxi from Dublin to Dundalk. Right? So I arrived in Oriel Park. Right, and I arrived in. I said, "Sorry, I'm late." The chairman just happened to be in the lobby when I walked in. A lovely fella called Jim Riley was his name, So I arrived in. I said, Jim, I had to get a taxi. He says, what the name of... I said, the match is off.
Oh, you're joking.
So it's forever burnt into my memory. I'll tell you how much in 1978, exactly what the taxi fare was from Dublin to Dundalk. It was £18, right? And that was probably the £18 that sent Dundalk over the budget that year, you know?
Yeah.
So this is the sort of...
get to a match that was
this is the sort of behaviour which makes me look back now and think, well, if I was Jim McLaughlin, I wouldn't have put that mad fella in either, you know?
Yeah, yeah. When did you... Sorry, Danny, go ahead.
No, go on.
When did you realise then, Lar, that probably as a paid professional it wasn't going to work out?
about 2 years when I turned 60, probably. Like, don't let anyone ever tell you that they don't stop dreaming about it, you know. Yeah. I wake up some nights with Champions League medals in my hand, you know. but I tell you what happened. I came back and I tried to play in the League of Ireland, right? And like I said, you know, I always talk now about how important the whole mental side of the game is. I just lacked the mental ability. And to be honest, I was hugely arrogant at the time and I wouldn't listen to any advice. And it sort of passed me by without me knowing it really, you know, because I had a lot of ability. And a lot of people say to me now, you know, it's a pity you were playing at that time because you were a highly technical player. And what we call technical play now, skillful play, for want of a better word, it wasn't too much in fashion in the League of Ireland back then, you know. It was very much win the headers, win the knockdowns, get onto it, play long. You know, it didn't suit me, right? Because funnily enough, I would have been that type of player until I played schoolboy international, until I played with the international team. And I sort of got the coaching bug out of that, and I wanted the ball to be played on the ground. Now, you young lads, wouldn't remember a time when the ball wasn't played on the ground. But there was a time when the ball wasn't played on the ground. So it didn't really suit me, you know. So, you know, I like to say now I was one of those nearly men, you know, but I like to sort of turn it around now and say, rumour has it, or legend has it, that they're the fellas who make the best coaches. So that's me. You heard me saying this a million times before, you know. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Who was the coach then at when you were with the Ireland youths that made you think you wanted to be a coach?
Liam Toohey was the manager.
Wow. So Liam gave you
another League of Ireland legend. The nicest man you'd ever meet. But at the same time, we had an English director of coaching then, a guy called John Jarman, who was big into the coaching, you know. So he sort of influenced me as well. You know, in all fairness, Chippy Devlin was our goalkeeper. You guys would know Chippy, would you? Chippy went on to play League of Ireland. You know, Chippy was signed for Leeds, and strangely enough, they let him go because they said he wasn't tall enough, and he was the biggest fella in our league at the time. You know, but Chippy had a fantastic long kick out, and we kicked it long. So when I went to play with the international team, then I was looking to get the ball off him. And in fairness to Chippy, he was looking to give it to me as well. So, you know, it sort of made me interested in playing in a more different way and looking away from what we were seeing in front of us to look at other ways of playing and that, you know. And
did you play as an adult then? Did you play much in the Leinster Senior League?
Yeah.
Or did you just go? You did. Yeah. So who did you play with then?
I played. Let me think. Who would have been my first Leinster Senior League?
Would you play for everybody in the borough, like?
No. I was sort of around everyone in the borough. I played for the Workman's Club. My first one was the Workman's Club. I always remember my first. Like, I was playing in the League of Ireland B, and John McCann, who was in Home, that was in Home Farm at the time. John McCann was going back to the Workman's Club. He was playing for the Home Farm first team. He said, "Come back with me," and I went up to watch them. And I was thinking, League of Ireland B, you know, it'd be easy to play Leinster Senior League. I went in and I played my first game for the Workman's Club, and I swear to God, I nearly died.
Really?
Yeah, because you're playing against real big men, grown men, like, you know. Yeah. And I always say that to young lads now. We always get young lads in Leinster Senior League and senior teams. You get young lads coming from schoolboy football, and they look at the schoolboy football and they think it's slow. But when they go in and play it, they're playing against grown men, and that makes a huge difference. So they don't realise that, you know. But that was that's why I'm able to tell them that, because I never forget that hammer blow. Like, you know, the muck on the pitch was about 6 inches deep. Every player on the field was about 6 inches taller than me, right? And it was a huge learning experience for me. In one game, I learned that you couldn't disrespect the football at that level, you know? Yeah. So I played with Joseph Glassdoor then for 2 seasons. I was player manager in Joseph Glassdoor. And then...
At what age? What age were you player manager?
Jeez, I can't remember. I tell you, when I was player manager, again, another stupid...
Were you in your 20s when you'd say to yourself, right?
I would have been around 20, right? Now,
wow.
I had this gene, Graham. I believe there are some people who have this gene about coaching and about wanting to be in charge. Now, I'd hate to lie on a couch and have it analysed, because I mightn't hear something that I like, you know. But I always, when we were in Joe's, right, what they call an academy now, I hate that word academy. What they call an academy now, we used to call it the Saturday Morning League. So when you went to under 13 football, right, you were asked to go and help in the Saturday Morning League, right? So I went under 13. Myself and a lot of us, Anton Whelan went as well, Stephen Davin, loads of lads from our team. So I've literally been coaching since I was 13. I never stopped in between. So I was always doing something. So believe it or not, it won't be too long until my 50th anniversary as a coach, right? So, but the thing about it was, you know, if ever there was a stupid decision to be made in football, right? If you ever want an expert on stupid decisions in football, I'll be your agent, because I can tell you, right? So we started a local team called Beach. Well, I joined a local team to coach them. When I think it was when I left Dundalk or whatever. I played for Brighton Celtic, for Brian Devitt. I joined the local team as manager, as coach, because I wanted to be in charge, right? So we won a league. I think we won a league and got up to the Premier Division. Very low level at that time. Now, compared to the level now in those leagues, it wasn't very high level, you know. But I actually, at the same time I was playing for Beach Celtic, I did my first English full badge coaching course. So I was doing it. And on that coaching course, there was a guy called Jack Detchen, who was would have been well known in coaching circles. Now, he offered me a contract to go back to England with him, with Boston United, right? Who were in the Northern Premier League, I think, at that time. And what he said to me was, look, come over, it's part-time. The owner owns a furniture factory, right? You'll work there during the day, he'll pay you, you'll get your Northern Premier League wages and for training at night and the weekend, and you'll earn more than a third or fourth division player. But I actually turned that offer down to manage Beach Celtic. Believe it or believe it not.
And where were Beach Celtic located?
Dunedin. The farm, where the Blue Pool is now.
No way.
Yeah, there was pitches there. You lads probably don't even remember the pitches.
No, I remember the pitches. I just don't remember Beach Celtic.
Yeah. You see, you lads are from Ballybrack, right? Okay. There was a time before you lads were, well, your parents or your grandparents were shifted out to the mountains, right? where everyone lived, where everyone in the flats there and everyone in the farm, football was really strong. There was a Monkstown Boys Club that were really strong. So all the estates around, Rockford had a club, right? That was a strong club. Roy O'Connor Park had their own. You know, I'm from Roy O'Connor Park. We had our own club there as well. Like now,
we had Dave McWilliams on the podcast 2 weeks ago, and
he was talking about Roy O'Connor and the team. I heard that.
Yeah. He played for Rory O'Connor, but I had never. My granddad, Hughie O'Connor, is from Rory O'Onnor, and I never knew there was a football.
I never knew Hughie O'Connor as your granddad. Would you believe that?
He's my great granddad. I
never. That's the first I ever heard of that. You know. But the thing about it was, we were able to play for Joe's on a Saturday back then. And play for this
on a Sunday.
Yeah, play in the South County League on a Sunday, you know. But what happened then? They rounded all your gang up, right? All your ancestors up, and they shoved them up the mountains up in Ballybrack. Right? And then all of a sudden, Ballybrack Football Club went through a period of huge success. No one could beat Ballybrack for a certain period of time. Now, don't ask me the dates, don't ask me the times. But that was because all the lads from the farm had been moved up to Ballybrack, up with the hillybillies.
The hillbillies. Fuck you, Lar.
For us, when we were growing up, Ballybrack was a country village. Right? Not the concrete jungle that it is now, you know.
Now it's a little small town.
Yeah.
Hibernian metropolis.
We used to go for a day trip up to Killiney Beach.
Gary Zambra had great success in Ballybrack senior team.
Yeah, Gary was with the senior. Now that was a lot longer. Now that was
the 90s.
I can remember playing a few matches for Gary when he was there because Gary was the only one who would let me because I was working an FAI course in Galway at the time and I used to come back and play for Ballybrack, you know. But having said that, I have something I want to say to you now that I think of it. I meant to say to you first. Right, in Joseph Glassdale, I can't believe he didn't give me a mention last week, was the famous politician Richard Boyd Barrett was the goalkeeper. Joseph Glassdale then.
And you were his manager?
Yeah, when I was the manager of Joseph Glassdale. But there's another one. Jimmy Jackson, who was, again, from a coaching course, from looking at me on a coaching course playing or whatever, Jimmy Jackson, who was the manager of Athlone, asked me to go down and play for Athlone. Right? And again, wanting to be the big guy, wanting to be the arrogant leader type fella, I said, no, I'd rather stay with Joseph Glassdale. You know?
Yeah.
So, like I said, if ever there was a decision to be made and you wanted a guide for the wrong decision, I'm your man, you know?
You're the man, yeah.
Well, everything happens for a reason, though, Larry, you know?
Well, I don't know. I still haven't worked it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty of time left.
When you find out what that reason is, Danny, you give me a shout.
No bother,
Larry probably has a team for you in Australia to go and manage.
Hopefully, yeah. I was talking to him today. He told me to say he was asking for his.
Yeah. He's driving tractors now.
He's a cherry picker now, he is, but not one of them machines. He actually is a cherry picker now.
I know,
he's picking cherries.
So when you're coaching the local clubs there, at what point then do you kick on again? Because you've enjoyed great success as a coach.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. Like I said, I know I've mentioned him a couple of times. Anto Whelan, right? Anto was on our team in Joe's. His dad, Jimmy, was a manager. Joe's legend, as they say. Although he is a real legend. Everyone's a legend nowadays. Fellas who deliver your pizza are legends nowadays, you know.
Man, they're hungry here.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. Well, that is true. But Jimmy was our manager, and Jimmy was a stalwart of the club when the club was more local based. But myself and Anto grew up together. We went to school together. We played in the same team together. We hung around in the summer together. We discovered the Beatles' Red and Blue albums together, which started a lifelong obsession. Even though we were a little bit late for the Beatles, right? We got in started a lifelong obsession. But Anto got the man. Anto went to United. He came back and he had a fantastic career in the League of Ireland. You need to get Anto on because in terms of the board, I can't think of anyone who's been more successful than Anto Whelan, you know. But Anto got to draw the job, right? And he rang me up and he said, will you go? And I said, of course I'll go, you know. So we went to draw it, right? And that was my first job in League of Ireland, right? And I have to say, the season I felt I stayed, we worked a draw there, was the most enjoyable season I've ever had in football. Because
really?
It was League of Ireland, but back then it was informal League of Ireland, right? Now, the famous Larry that you just spoke about, we had Jody Bourne in goal, who was the goalkeeper, because he was Anto's friend, because Anto played for Rovers, right? Jody was the goalkeeper of the 4 in the row team. We had Jody in goal. Now, your friend and mine, my son, Larry, used to warm Jody up.
I remember, yeah.
He used to take shots on him. Now, no one would believe that Jody Bourne, League of Ireland legend, in the League of Ireland, was getting warmed up by a 5-year-old taking shots at him.
So that's like the Saturday teams, the Leinster Senior League.
Yeah. But that's the way it was. It was really relaxed. And I've often seen the lads putting things up on Facebook about that year and all that, and they all say the same. It was hugely, hugely enjoyable. Because I'll tell you why. Because Anto was really, really good with the fellas. He was great. He'd such experience, and he was great at handling them. And then he had I could say he had the common sense, right? But he let me do everything on the training field. right? So
and did he just make the transition from footballer to coach manager?
He was playing. He played in the first season. He was player manager.
He didn't. Did he have any aspirations to become manager, or is it just one of these circumstances?
Well, he must have, Graham, if he took the job, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there have been the way things work in the league, and running feelers were sent out, and they offered him the job, you know.
Yeah.
So Anto played.
That was great that he brought you along as his assistant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You know, it was great. But like I said, so I've been lucky with most of the managers that I've worked with. You know, the way I work, like I say to people, I'm the quietest. Or I'm the loudest backroom man you've ever heard in your life. Because not many people know who I was or what I was doing. But if you stood behind any of those dugouts, you would have known who I was, you know. But on the training field, like, that's the way I've always worked. I need to be the voice. I need to be the main voice, you know. So with Anto and with the other managers I worked as well, that was always my role, you know, to be in charge of the training, to decide what we did, when we did it. And it worked great for us that year with myself and Anto.
How long did you last in Drogheda?
Look, we only lasted one season, and I'll tell you why. Because, again, out of admiration for him, I'll tell you why. Because, you know, back then in the League of Ireland, the ducking and diving in terms of money and checks bouncing and stuff like that, Anto had promised people, some players, some money for the following season. The board didn't back him up, and he said, no, I'm a man of my word. I told those players that they were going to get X amount, and you're saying they can't. So he left. Right. Okay, so the usual story in football. I was out of a job then as well, you know.
Yeah, so what happened after that? And was it did you have to wait a while before going back into the league?
Look, Graham, I have to be honest now. Like, it's not that I'm older or anything, but I've done so much, it's a blur. But it was probably 1 or 2 seasons afterwards that Devo asked me to go up to Bray. So I went up to Bray then, you know. So that was a great experience. We won the cup. So we got promoted with Drogheda the first season. With Bray then we won the cup, right? And from Bray I went to Rovers.
And did you know Liam Buckley was the manager at Rovers? So you'd obviously had a relationship with Liam prior to that?
Liam was at the same. Liam played in the same age group as I did. He was our age group growing up. Now, for the life of me, I can't remember what team he was on, you know. Now, I remember going, I can't remember. I don't know, maybe he came from a year younger than us, but he was in, because when I went to Germany with the Leinster youth team, myself and Anto were on that team, and Chippy, I think, was on, I'm sure Chippy was on that as well. Liam was on that team, so I knew Liam from there, you know. So, but again, the same story again. Liam came and did his A licence with the FAI when I was an FAI. By the time I'd graduated to being an FAI instructor. Right. So Liam came and did his A licence, and again saw what I could do, and then asked me to go to Rovers. Now, I believe the legend was that I was probably 7th. It was like Jack Charlton getting elected. I think I was the 7th fella he asked. But again, the same sort of arrangement. Liam was great. He stood back, developed his relationships with the players, got the most out of the players, did a fantastic job doing that. And again, the training ground was my responsibility, you know. And
did you enjoy your time there? Like, what were the players like? What were the personalities like? Or?
Oh, look, it was Graham. I know I'm playing into your alley now by saying this, but look. The best thing about being at Rovers is being at Rovers. Yeah. And the other clubs, there are great clubs. Of course, there are great clubs, but there really is nothing like Rovers. And the players used to even say it then, you know. This club it's different than all the other clubs, you know. So the actual prestige of being at Rovers, I think everyone that goes to the club feels that, you know. So the players would have been getting this vibe across. To me, Liam obviously already knew it, having been a great player for them in the time. So it was so good to just be at Shamrock Rovers, you know. Now that's despite the fact that Shamrock Rovers at the time was a basket case, right? Okay, it was check bouncing time, you know. You know, things were not good off the pitch at the time, right? And not only that, right? You probably wouldn't be aware of this because you know Tallaght Stadium and all now, you know. But that season I can't remember whether it was the first or the second season. That season we made history, right, by playing a home game in Cork.
In Cork, I remember.
In Turner's Cork. Have you heard about that one? Yeah. So we went down because I'll tell you what had happened. Because we'd been thrown out of Dalymount. We had been hired in Dalymount. We were playing in Dalymount home games. We played in Richmond Park home games. We played in Tolka home games. And the trouble with the supporters got us thrown out. So, and to be honest, when I say Rovers was a basket case, I was going against the tide when I was saying to the people in the club, look, we've got to do something. We've got to say something about the supporters. Because they're great supporters, they're Rovers fanatics, but they're costing the club thousands of euro or thousands of pounds probably as it was at the time. And they were getting us thrown out. So we played a home match in Cork. Right? Now the supporters, for some reason, they seem to accept every aspect of playing a home game in Cork except one. They went bananas because we had to wear our away gear. This was the one thing, like this was the sort of twisted logic that was going on at the time, you know? Because we had to wear it, because Cork probably said, look, you can play in our place, but you have to wear your away gear, you know? Now, on the other side of things, you know, in terms of my greatest experience in the League of Ireland was the European games.
Right.
Because now I could be wrong, because stats and dates and times and league tables would not be my forte, being sort of the artistic type, you know. But I think we were the first ones to win in Europe in the sort of new era of League of Ireland clubs winning in Europe. And I'll tell you why that was. The seasons that I was at Rovers were the transition to summer football. So we played early season, right? And we were in the middle of our season, and the teams that we played weren't. So we won. Like the first season we didn't, right? We came with a fantastic late run and got through the first season, and we played Djurgårdens from Sweden, and that was from a coaching point of view, especially from my point of view. Like I learned by playing against them. Like that was the first time I saw sort of as a specific tactic of the, you know, everyone's talking about the inverted wingers now. The fellas cutting inside all the time. Like, they caught us by surprise with both their wingers cutting inside, because no one was really doing it at that time, you know. So they beat us in both legs, but it was a good learning experience. But the following season then we played a team probably no one has ever heard of called Odra Władysław. I think that's the correct pronunciation. So we beat them away from home and we beat them at home. And I'll give you a good story about that, right? Okay. Now, Poland, I don't know whether Poland viewed themselves as a football stronghold or whatever, but they thought we were goons. They thought we were lambs coming to the slaughter, right? So we landed in Poland, right? And I'll tell you back then, now, I know it was only the turn of the millennium, if you want to call it that, but my God, it was bleak. It was bleak. It was scary. Right. It was depressing. We had to drive from the airport for about an hour and a half to this place in Odra. So so the driver says the hotel is coming around, you know. He said, you know, round the corner. We turned the corner and there's this brand new granite and glass boutique hotel that we stayed in. That was absolutely fantastic, you know. So we were absolutely delighted in that until it came to dinner time, right? And we realised the difference between the West and the East. Right, and Alan Bourne, who was our doctor, right? He was our doctor then. Alan Bourne, who's the Irish doctor now. Yeah, right? He literally had to go to the hotel manager and say, "These guys need more calories. they have to eat more food." But look, that's only leading on to the rest of the story, right? Like I said, they thought we were goons. Right? So the manager comes up to greet us and say hello, the usual thing that they do in European matches, you know. And they were so certain of winning. Right, he said, "Would you like to come down and see us training?" So I'm rubbing my hands together and saying, "Oh yeah, thanks very much. We'll go down. We might learn something from you, you know. It'd be great, you know." So myself and Liam went down to look at them training, and I'm looking at them and I'm saying to Liam, "This is a winnable game." "Oh no, they'll be good. I said, "No, for some reason I have this thing, a coaching thing. I don't know whether I don't know whether I'm by myself doing this. But when I'm looking at a game, in terms of the quality of the game, I'm looking at how many passes each team is putting together. So I'm looking at these lads in training, right? And every move was breaking down after 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 passes, which was probably the standard at the time in the League of Ireland. And I said to Liam, look, this is a League of Ireland game. I says, we can win this game, you know. No, they'd be better, you know. So Liam, through all his contacts, hadn't played in Europe. We had the 3 videos, as they were back in the old days. We had 3 videos, stick them in the slot, you know. I'd watched them for 3 matches, right? And Liam had watched them, and we'd done our homework as best homework could have been done back in those days, you know. Because the League of Ireland was, like I said, was a different animal then than it is now. So I knew what their best team was, right? So we're in the dressing room, and their team comes in. And of course, this is huge motivation to our players, because I say to our players, that, whatever I call them, I know you lads curse, but there's no way I'm cursing over the internet. Right? By the way, every podcast you go to, Graham Merrigan. I listen to all the Coaching Badges podcasts, and the first fellow I ever heard curse on it, Graham Merrigan. Yeah. And since you've been on it, the lads have been cursing as well. But anyway, back to the match. Back to the match, right? So we started. So their team sheet comes in, and we're motivating their players, saying they're disrespecting us. They're putting a poor team out, right? So their players come out, right, and they don't have a coach with them. They sent the players out to warm up by themselves. They were so certain of winning the game. They didn't have a coach. And I'm looking at them saying, "These, we're going to whack into these, like, you know, we're going to lash these out. There's no way these can be prepared." And that was bad enough, right? Right. So in the middle of the warm-up, right now, and I'm saying literally in the middle of the warm-up, a big marching band comes on into the field, right, and about 60 majorettes behind, and starts walking through the middle of our warm-up, you know. So, of course, now, I'm looking at 60 majorettes going by me, Graham. Like, you know, I was a lot younger then than I am now, you know. But I have to put on the act. I have to start screaming at them to get out of me warm-up, right? So I'm screaming at these majorettes, get off. Right? Well, their lads are trying to warm up, right? So the game started, and we went to goal down, but I was always confident. So we came back and we beat them 2-1, you know. And, you know, I think because we'd won, there was a bit of press coverage, and somehow or other the Irish press got hold of the Polish press and absolutely castigated these lads for being beaten by a shower of goons from Ireland, you know. But then we beat them in the home game as well. So that European experience for me was huge. Now then we went and we played Slovan Liberec in the Czech Republic, and unfortunately, literally at the time, this was when you could really see the difference between the part-timers and the full-timers. Even though our lads, in terms of our league, were super fit, right? Our lads, after the first 2 matches, they could hardly run. Our lads were knackered when we played Liberec. Plus, they were a very, very good team at that time, you know? So I remember and again, in terms of learning, what you learn when you go to Europe. So I was telling everyone the second leg, come and watch these. These are really, really good. These are a good team, you know. And all they did, we played them in Richmond. We were still in Richmond. Before the fans kicked up in Richmond, we were in Richmond. So we played them in Richmond. All they did was they sat back. They didn't bother playing because they were 2-0 up, you know, which again was a learning experience for me in terms of European football, you know. So Rovers was absolutely brilliant. The players were brilliant. The training was brilliant. But then, I'll tell you what happened. And you know, it was a familiar story in the League of Ireland. The Czechs started bouncing. Right? So it was a huge spirit. There was a huge spirit around the team. We'd done well in Europe. We came back. If we had won all the matches that we had in hand after the European thing, we would have been something like 5 points ahead in the league. And we didn't.
The cup final as well.
Yeah. The cup. Now, the cup final was that the first or the second year? I'm not sure now, to be honest.
I think that was 2002. I think your second. You were there from 2001.
Yeah, it was 2002. It's on my tracksuit here that I was.
Oh yeah, you're wearing the FAI Cup final.
Especially for you,
Rovers tracksuit.
Yeah.
I'll be robbing that off you.
Yeah, well, you can have it for a mere fee. But yeah. So look, I have to be honest. I've been with so many clubs now. Timeline, I wouldn't have a clue of, But we went, a funny thing in terms of coaching and approach in the cup final, we beat Bowes you'd be glad to hear we beat Bowes in the semis. Like we beat Bowes 2-0. I'm nearly sure Stephen Kenny was the Bowes manager then. And then I could never put my finger on it, Graham. We just didn't play. We just didn't play in the final at all. Now, a funny thing about that, now I don't know if it has anything to do with it or whether it does or whether it doesn't have anything to do with it. Right, the whole cup final vibe, the night before and the suits and all that. Now, I can't remember. I think Liam was probably behind us. I'm not sure, but our approach was to treat it like every other game.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So instead of getting suits, we got these track suits. We just turned up that morning as we would for a normal game. And look, it's the old story in football. If it works, if you win, it's the best idea ever. If you lose, you didn't. So, I sort of got the vibe of our lads. The Derry lads came out in their suits and our lads were looking at them. And I can't tell. We can't tell what was going on in fellas' minds at that time. But we were so flat in the final, it was unbelievable. We were flying. We were peaking in terms of fitness. We were doing really, really well. And by the way, our fitness was way, with my experience in the FAI at the time, like all this talk about strength and conditioning now, I used to, when I see Shane Robinson now, because Shane Robinson is the head of the Rovers Academy now, I do laugh at him when he's talking about strength and conditioning. And I always ask him, I always say, well, where did you hear that first, this whole strength thing and all, because we were sort of way ahead at that time. Because of my experience in the FAI, we were having experts coming in that were at the forefront, the likes of Liam Hennessy and Jim Kilty. These were fellas. Liam Hennessy was a consultant with Bayern Munich at the time, a fitness consultant. So I was getting his information from the FAI work, and we were doing stuff ahead of everyone else at that time. Without a shadow of a doubt, we were doing stuff ahead of everyone else in terms of strength.
At Rovers in 2002.
Rovers, we were going. We for example, we were going the day after games. We were going into the swimming pool, and look. Other clubs could have been doing it, but I wasn't aware of other things doing it. So we were really, really well, but everything was so flat. Even though we sort of dominated the game and we could have won it, we missed a good few chances. That was the final as well, where one of the stanchions went on fire. The floodlight stanchions went on fire.
I remember the criticism of that at the time in terms of Liam taking it on as an ordinary game.
Yeah.
Whereas, Rovers had went years without winning the cup, and then when they won it then in 2019, the effort Stephen Bradley made to the squad to let them know this is huge. This means so much to the fans. Brought them out to a hotel for the weekend, got their suits, had messages from their families in a private room with the players. Messages from long-term fans and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that made them win it, but I think it certainly needs a prestige thing needs to be brought to it.
Yes, definitely. Look, like I said,
the importance of it, it's one of the longest domestic cups in Europe, I think. So
I think I could be wrong. Again, I could be wrong. You see, now that I think of it, the cup final was the year before those European games, But look, you're right. I would do that now.
But nobody expected Rovers to get to the cup.
No, we come from nowhere, Graham. We started off, and it took a while for things to bed in, for Liam's ideas to bed in. In terms of the way he wanted the team to play, it took us a while. But again, I would say. And I'm not just saying this because other people were involved as well, like the physios, Alan Bourne, the medical side. But we had planned to come strong at the end, and that was 1 year where I can say in all the League of Ireland teams that plan definitely worked. We were absolutely flying at the end of that season, Definitely, we 100%. I would say that, and I think most of the lads, the likes of Alan Bourne, Collie Davis, who was the physio, Albert. Bourne was the physio as well, was, Liam, Trapper, everyone. I think we got everything right except winning that bloody match, And I said, the players froze, and maybe it was the whole suits thing. If Tony Grant, I think, had one good chance, I think Robbo came on as sub that day, if I remember correctly, and I think he might have had a good chance as well. Like, if we had to take those 2 chances, everyone would be wearing tracksuits to the final now. You know?
Oh yeah, every year.
To the victor, the spoils. To the victor, the spoils. You see, if you get it right, you get it right. You know. But like, and then the following season, like I said, we started well, and I saw this happen again at Athlone, right?
Yeah.
You know, the things that were going on off the field, right? When they first started happening, players were great. Now, I saw it happening at Rovers, and I saw it happening at Athlone, right? Fellas are not getting their wages. Some of the lads, you know, are married with families, right? For the first maybe 3-4 weeks, everything's great, and they're really professional, and you know, everyone's giving everything and everyone's committing themselves. But after a while, human nature, the lads being more, you know, and it was a joke because, you know, it looked like at the time it was being systematic, like, because your check had bounced this week and mine had bounced next week, and Danny, your check had bounced the next week. You know, it looked cynical like that in terms of, now look, you know, the other side of the coin is the men who were trying to run the club were trying to do it as best they could, you know.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it, like, the stadium is absolutely fantastic now, you know. But they're
doing okay now in the first division at the moment. Like, they did lose the weekend, but
no, I'm talking about Rovers. I'm talking about the stadium in Rovers.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant that loan.
It's a funny one. Like, you guys know the story with the stadium. Rovers started to build it, and then they ran out of money. Right. Yeah. So there was a few concrete terraces up in Tala, right? But before each pre-season, we went up and had a photograph taken in front of the Umbro sign on the terraces, you know.
Oh, really?
So I have two group photographs in Tala Stadium before it was Tala Stadium in front of the big Umbro sign, you know.
As the stop-start.
But both years, the management said, October, lads, October. You'll be in here in October, you know. It was a good few Octobers after that the lads actually got in and played in it, you know.
2010.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, like, the thing about that was then, you know, look, you could talk to Liam here now on your podcast, and he might tell you a different story, right? Yeah. But this is how I read it, right? Yeah. Like, the air was let out of the balloon by constantly fellas not being paid, and, you know, this thing and that thing happening, and there was always an arse or an elbow or something going on about it, you know, and like, in the end we just fell away. The team played really, really poorly towards the end of the season, and, you know, and I wouldn't be one of these people, by the way, that would blame the players. I would put my hand up and say, look, that was our responsibility, that the team didn't play well, but we just completely fell away in that second season.
Is it important for the coach to be able to recognise that, though? I'm always kind of fascinated with the thing of, like, you know, you see it a lot now with Premier League managers getting sacked, and you always hear the kind of, somebody will always say, well, I mean, the players have to take some of the blame as well. At what point should a coach recognise when they're to blame, or when the squad isn't doing what it should be doing, so to speak?
Yeah, it was when I got older, Danny, I sort of realised this, you know, that, like, I would have been the same as most people. You know, things are not going right, not going right. You say, oh, this lad's not doing that. They're not putting it in and all that. But the fact that they're not putting it in is your responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, that's your responsibility. Yeah. In terms of the training pitch, it would have been my responsibility. But that's the head coaches, if you want to call them that now. Like I never worked with a head coach. It was always manager and first team coach. I was always first team coach, you know. But, you know, that's still your responsibility. But we have a much better understanding of all this now in terms of talking to players, and you know, you go and listen to all these high performance podcasts, right? The sports psychology ones, the leadership ones, right? And all the managers nowadays are they're not talking about football. They're all talking about the relationships with their players. Yeah. Right? They're all talking about communication. They're all talking about two-way communication. They're all talking about respect. So, you know, that's a big shift to what it was like when I was there, you know. So managers would be pointing the finger and all now. But, you know, I say to players, but I also say to myself, and, you know, I say to coaches as well, the first place you look when things aren't going right is in the mirror. You know, that's a saying that I would be using for a long time now. Right? So if things don't go well with any team, whether it's our under-9 team up in Enniskerry or whether it's Shamrock Rovers' first team, if things aren't going right, the first thing I would do would be to look at myself. Could I have done anything better? And in fairness, this whole thing about reflection now on the FAI coaching courses, it's a huge thing. Coaches are being educated to do this now all the time. So look, I can't really speak for what happens at Premiership because the dynamic is completely different there compared to what it used to be. Because these guys, it's a cliche now. These guys are all millionaires. So how do you motivate a millionaire? How do you make sure how do you make sure a millionaire keeps playing?
Yeah.
You know, the key to that is the same as it always has been. Now, we didn't know this, or we wouldn't have been formally saying it, but, you know, it's all about communication, right? All this stuff about sports psychology now, all that happened was a few lads went to school, you know. They were able to put the fancy words on it, but what they did, they went and they saw what Bill Shankly was doing, right? And they were able to recognise the process, and they went to see what all the great managers were doing, what Don Revie did back in this time, because this was when things were starting, and they recognised this, and they were able to put words on it now. So now people can see these things in a more structured way.
Yeah,
you know, they know that the relationship is important. So what would have been done by Bill Shankly, what Bill Shankly would have done would have been found out what the main motivator for that player was.
Yeah.
What gets him going? What makes him want to play well? What will make him play well? Now, Shankly would have done it in a very blunt, straightforward manner, but the onus is on the manager now to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's mad because when you're saying that, and you mentioned Don Revie there, and I went down a rabbit hole a few years ago.
Not like you to go down a rabbit hole, Dan.
No, I know, yeah, but like that was. I watched have you ever seen The Damned United? The film about, I watched that, and then because
you went on YouTube then afterwards, did you?
I wouldn't have known much about Don Revie, like, do you know what I mean? Just because completely different era and all that. But I was fascinated by how all the Leeds lads just wouldn't take the Clough. And Revie was still walking around like a god, and that relationship, as you were saying there, that's the key.
Relationships. You see what Clough did, because Johnny Giles hates, like, I've heard Johnny Giles talking, and you've heard Johnny Giles talking a million times about it. Like, these were seasoned professionals, these were champions, and you know, it's the famous story. Like, Clough went in straight away and ruined every single chance he had of establishing a proper relationship with those fellas. He told them, "You're a load of cheats. Throw your medals in the bin." This is the famous quote, like, and it's not fiction, because Johnny Giles said it happened, like, you know. I'll tell you a good Johnny Giles story, by the way. Anyway, but,
go on.
When Giles and Dunphy came over, and Ray Tracy came over back from England with Rovers, right? I had left football. I'd become a bit disillusioned with football after Dundalk and that, you know. And I was doing karate or whatever, and I decided I wanted to go back to football, right? And Rovers at that time, when Louis Kilcoyne was running it, they were in an awful state. They were a really, really bad club, but they decided to hold trials. So I just said, right, I'm going back to football. I went up and we did the trials. I played really well in the trial games. Rovers signed me, right? Now, a few weeks later, they were taken over and Johnny Giles came in, right? So all the fellas who had been signed were let go. Now, for some strange reason, right, make your own mind up what that reason was, I was brought up, right? They kept me, you know. I was the only one that they kept from them lads, right? So Giles and Dunphy came back, right? And I was in full time. I was training every day, right? And the very, very first match that Giles and Dunphy were in charge, I was probably 17. No, I would have been probably 19 at the time. I was on the bench, and a League of Ireland stalwart called John Doran was playing. My position was playing right back. Got injured after 5 minutes. So the very, very first game, I got in after 5 minutes. Right?
I didn't know you played for Rovers.
Yeah. Right. So in that match, I was a young lad, right? I absolutely shit myself, right? Now, I didn't do too badly, but, you know, the shorts needed a second wash afterwards. The laundry woman had to give the shorts a second wash. But it didn't help that the first ball I got on, I did well. I got on it and I played it to the winger. A certain name in Dunphy who was playing inside, who had showed inside for the ball, said, "You will fucking..." I won't use the word. I said I wouldn't curse on this, right? But it was a word that applies. It's probably the worst curse word. He called me that.
Right,
Why didn't you give it to me? Now, I didn't even give the ball away. I gave it to the winger, right?
Yeah.
Dunphy absolutely lashed me out of it, right? It's fair enough. So that was my first experience. But I recovered, right? So I was going in full-time. I was training full-time. And again, look, a player knows when he's doing well. And I was doing well. I was doing really well. So I was getting better each game that we played, all the pre-season friendlies and all that, you know? Now, with the reserve, obviously with the reserve team, because he wasn't going to put me in the first team after what happened, after my first debacle, you know? But, right, so we're training full-time. The part-time lads came in at night. Most of the lads who were training in the mornings went up at night. I went up at night. The night before the league started, Johnny Giles calls me into the office, right? The night before the league started, and says, "I'm letting you go, son." I said, "What?" I couldn't believe it, like, you know. The night before the league started. He says, "I'm letting you go." He says, "I have a new fullback coming in." And of course, I'm only a young lad. I'm devastated, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, I went down and told the rest of the lads, like, and none of the lads could believe it, like, you know. So that's me, Johnny. I know it wasn't a great story, but that's me, Johnny Giles story, you know.
But come here, when you were originally signed, did you not sign a length of time, right?
No, it wasn't a contract. It would have been just a form.
Right.
Because don't forget, like I'm saying, Rovers were amateur the season before. When they held the trials that year before, they went professional.
Yeah. So you made one appearance for Rovers in a friendly.
That was but it was only the first pre-season friend. I'll tell you about another Rovers appearance because you're a Rovers man, right? Right. Milltown, right? The pitch in Milltown. We used to go and watch the games up there, and Milltown was fantastic. Believe it or believe it not. Now I know this is a strange story. Right? I played for Rovers once in Milltown because Noel O'Reilly had become the second team coach. And they were short one Saturday, and he asked me to go up and sign to play for Rovers. I can't remember who it was against. So I went up, but he signed me, and he let me go that night. He signed me so that I could just play that day. But I scored from about, it's grown to 35. I'll say 35 yards. but I scored from outside the box that day. And again, stupid decisions. If there's a stupid decision to be made, right, I went back to play for Beaches Celtic instead of staying with Rovers after him. So
of course you did.
Right. But here's another historical thing that people don't realise. Now I know no one gives a shit about this. Right? No one gives. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse. I said I wouldn't curse.
We'll edit that one out.
Right?
We had to.
But the last competitive game on Milltown was a Rovers reserve game, right, against DCU. Right, which was then the National Institute of Higher Education, right? That was the last competitive game in Milltown, and I was the DCU coach in that game. So I played on the last competitive game in Milltown, you know. So I played in the away game, or I coached in the away game in Cork, and I played in the last competitive game. Now I know I'm grasping at straws. I know how pathetic that is. Right,
yeah.
I did play in the last competitive game in Milltown.
You know, you're embarrassing yourself now. You're grasping.
I know, but look, watch now.
Come here, Lara. In terms of the book, we're running out of time. So, in terms of the book, it's obviously it's not autobiographical. It's a coaching book. So, who would be the best people to buy it?
Right, the book is very simple.
Who's it written for?
Right, I start by saying the book is very simple because that's the aim of the book. Okay, I've come at the book from a couple of ways, a couple of angles. Okay, first of all, right, I'm looking at football now, and I'm listening to the radio, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm looking at Match of the Day, and everyone knows everything. Right? Everyone knows what formation Manchester City are playing. Everyone knows the low block, the high block, the counter pressing. Like, there was a time when only coaches would have spoken those terms. So everyone knows these things because of the internet, right? So everyone's looking at Manchester City training sessions. They're looking at Barcelona training sessions. But the problem is, fellas are seeing all this stuff on the internet, and they're coming down and they're trying these things with kids. So now adults always complicate the game for kids, but I think it's 100 times worse now. Right? So first of all, it's a book that aims to simplify the coaching of children for adults, for grassroots coaches, for it could easily be just a parent who has been given the job because no one else wants it to coach their kids' team. Okay. Now, the second angle that I came from, it's all about the game. It's all about the actual game in training, not about the drills, because again, the drills, the formation stuff, the mannequins, once I see a mannequin in a video, that's it. I'm on to the next one. Okay. Like, you know, all of this stuff, this is all stuff that's elite players, full-time players are doing. But go down to your local park, right, and you'll see the local under-19 coach trying to do that. Okay? So coaching in the game has always been the most difficult part of coaching. Now, when I say in the game, I'm talking about literally when the players are playing games. Right? So we started at the very bottom. The smallest game they can play is a two-a-side. So it starts on 2-on-2. So we're talking about the grassroots coach who's starting to coach a team, how to coach in the game. Because coaching in the game, in my opinion, and, you know, in terms of the coaches that I came up with, the likes of Morris, these are names I'm not sure you'll be familiar with, but in coaching circles, the likes of Morris Price, Jimmy McDermott, John McGrath, these would have been coaches who would have believed the same, who would have learned the same as I would. The game is the most important part of the training, not the drills with the 900 cones, right? Not the mannequins, right? Not the ladders, not the cones, right? The actual game itself. So what this book does is it helps coaches to do that, right? Now it does it in a very, very specific way. It simplifies everything, right? Like I said, it starts on 2-on-2. So there's only two players. So it's easy for the players to see the picture, and it's easy for the coach to see the picture. So the classic scenario with young kids, the coaches pulling their hair out, shouting at players to spread out. Players are not going to do that until they're ready to do it. Okay, and how's the easiest way for them to understand how to do it? It's just to play two, me and you. There's only two of us, so I'll have the ball, you spread away. Now, the way that I do it in the book is I give the coaches the right questions to ask the players. I hope I've given them all the situations, all the scenarios that they're going to come across in 2-on-2, right? And how to ask the right questions. Because the whole thing, the big picture, is trying to make these players intelligent players that can read the game for themselves. So I don't tell the players to spread out. I ask the players now, where can you go to get yourself some more space? Or even before that, would it be better if you have more space? So that starts off in the 2-on-2, and then it employs a very simple strategy, and it's so simple that I've never seen anyone else do it. I just add one player, and I give them the stuff to coach then in 3-on-3. Right? And then when the players are good at the 3-on-3, I add one player and then give them the stuff to do in 4-on-4. Now, a lot of coaches fall into the trap, and I speak a lot about the coach, how the coach works, and what's the characteristics of a good coach and all that. This is 2 years' work. Going from 2-on-2 to 4-on-4 and covering all the stuff I'm talking about in the book is 2 years' work. Now, the unfortunate thing is most young teams are coached by young people. Right? And the one thing that young people don't have is patience. Right? So it's done in an order that 30 years of coaching has taught me to work, that works. So this, first of all, you'll do this. Now, when the players are doing this well, you'll do this. When the players are doing that well, we move on to the next one. And it's done in a specific order. And I'm trying to encourage the coaches to do it in this specific order, because it's an order that, number one, I know that works. But I know that it works because I know it's done in an order that the kids will understand. Because adults are always in a rush to rush kids to the adult game. But what they need to realize is the adult game is not the same game as what we see. The adult game is not the same game as what they see down in the local park when kids are playing 5-a-side or they're playing 7-a-side. Now, they're getting a lot nearer when it's 9-a-side, but it still isn't the same game. What we're trying to do is give them 2 years' work and give them everything they have to do in that 2 years.
And as the title says, let's let the players play.
Exactly. Because Look, again, I know I'm taking a lot of your time and that,
Oh, you're all right, you're right.
When we were on the FOSS course, when I worked for the FAI, when we were on the FOSS courses, the famous FOSS courses that Roy Keane came off and Pat Fenlon and them, that I was on, right? Like Roy went from the course, from our course, went to Nottingham Forest, right? But over a period of time on that course, myself and Morris Price used to go in every morning. We'd go in early, we'd have our coaches meeting. Right? We'd be scratching our heads and racking our brains to find 5 or 6 things to do during the day. Of course, in terms of the science and stuff like that and rest and recovery, most importantly, wouldn't have been great. Those lads were absolutely whacked. Right? They were really, really tired. Right? But we found after a while, instead of doing the 5 or 6 things a day, when we used to play a match in the morning and play a match in the afternoon, we saw the players improving more. Right? And it's the old story. You don't see the obvious thing in front of your face. Because what's the best way of learning how to play football? It always has been the same way. Right? It's learning how to play football, right? And everyone knows that. It's funny, just by coincidence. I was listening to a sports psychology podcast today, right? And they said a team of psychologists, right, have put all the data together, and they found that players who play more on the street are better players than fellas who don't. Now, for the amount of money that those lads got for that grant money, I would have told them that. Right? And you would have told them that. And your granny would have told them that. Right? Yeah. So what was staring us in the face was, right, the more they play, the better they become. Okay, so that's the thinking behind the book. Again, the same thing in terms of schoolboy football or schoolgirl football as it is now as well, thank God. Right? Most clubs now they're probably hiring AstroTurf pitches, and they probably only have an hour.
Yeah.
Okay? And so kids are running around mannequins, they're going through ladders, they're jumping over hurdles, and it's just, all it's doing is just eating into their playing time.
Yeah, so
and
just
these
let them
guys
play.
Don't realise that the challenge is actually the opposite challenge when you're full-time over in the Premiership. It's filling in the week.
Yeah.
So it's great for them lads to be going around mannequins, right? and doing all these different things.
Absolutely, it's filling out the 5 days. Yeah,
but their time isn't as, I know it might seem strange, but their time isn't as precious as the hour that your under-11 coach gets with his under-11.
Absolutely.
So simplicity is the key. So instead of doing, like I say, I have a line in the book, and I know I keep repeating this every time I talk to someone. You're not a Barcelona coach. Don't be doing Barcelona Academy training.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Right? Yeah. Because, and here's the thing about it. The kids will keep coming back. The more the kids play, the more the kids come back. The more they stand around.
They'd rather play matches and stuff like that than the theory and jumping the.
It's a win-win situation, right? Exactly. It's a win-win situation for the coaches. The more the players play, the more they enjoy it, the more they're going to come back.
That's it. Well,
absolutely.
I remember when I played schoolboy, on a Tuesday night, it would be more the drills and all that kind of thing. But on a Thursday night, it was basically a big kickabout. Training on Thursday was packed. Training on Tuesday, probably 70% full. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Now again in the book, Dan, I use a very scientific term for the drills. Right? I call it the boring method. Because look, every now and again you get a drill and the players will like it. And I'm not saying I don't use drills, right? But I would use them very, very sparingly, right? And I wouldn't use them to teach. I would use them to warm up. I would use fellas to get back into the habit of passing or controlling or whatever, you know, or I might use a drill that would have an overlap in it, because in the games I'm looking for overlaps, something like that, you know. But players hate drills.
Yeah.
Right? Now, and I have a guideline. It's funny the way this worked out, you know, and people will say that, you know, the comment, you know what's going to be thrown at me now. Bertie Ahern, the D word is going to be thrown at me now. Like, listen to that dinosaur, you know. But this is the common term now for fellas my age, is a dinosaur. But the funny thing, I would have always had one standard that I used in terms of what training I would do. Right? I only ever used drills or practices or games that when I was a player, I liked.
Yeah.
Stuff that I didn't like when I was a player, I never used as a coach. And now, again, this is a little bit of coaching heresy, right? You know, these games that players play, and, you know, even at the top level, you'll see people playing and coaches put on with four goals to increase your peripheral vision. Now you're looking away from the ball. Like, I hated them when I was a player. I hated that game because I thought it was stupid. I thought it wasn't real football. I've never, ever used those games as a coach.
Yeah.
Unreal. Come here,
it might be a silly idea, but, you know, that's the way my thinking was shaped.
No, I'd agree. I think that I can't remember who said it once upon a time, but I was told, give everything a kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
I think Bill said that. We better not go down that road.
No, we won't. We're not.
Bill Clinton and kissing. Keep away.
Yeah, we don't have you on for that, Larry.
By the way, did I say this yet about your guest last week, a politician?
About down Joe's last hill?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I said it.
No, you covered that one, don't worry.
That's what happened. Sorry about that.
Come here, where
mention the politicians.
Larry, settle yourself.
Sorry, man. Getting excited.
If anyone wants to buy the book, where can they get the book?
Okay, I have I wouldn't go as far as, I wouldn't be as presumptuous as to call it a website. I have a web page, right, for there's the information on the book is on it. There's a little bit of a bio, right, that you guys have now. You could write it now yourselves. I have 3 great recommendations, 3 great testimonials. Stephen Kenny has written the foreword for the book. And we've taken a bit out of that as a testimonial on the webpage. Anya O'Gorman, who's the women's international team captain as well. And then Shane Robinson, who's you'll be glad to hear, is on it as well, Graham. Shane was a player when I was the coach at Rovers. He's the academy director now. So that's on it there. Now, the name, for some reason, the name of the book is Let the Players Play. Right? Yeah. But the name of the webpage is Big Picture Coaching Ireland. Now you have to put the Ireland in there because there's a few big picture coaching around the world. You know, there's a Canadian one, and I found this out afterwards. So it's Big Picture Coaching Ireland. And at the moment, the book is going at a special introductory price of €20 for the paperback, and it's €12 for the ebook.
Perfect. So just what's that website called again?
Right, it's called Big Picture Coaching Ireland. .com. Sorry, .com. Yeah.
.com.
Perfect. That's brilliant, Larry. Listen, thanks so much for your time. Yeah,
no problem. Sorry for getting a bit carried away at the end, but I think
you're not one bit sorry.
You're right. I'm not a bit sorry, but I was just going to say I think you could have predicted that was going to happen anyway.
Well, I said to Danny, you'd want to watch a match with this bollocks because it's the worst thing in the world.
Right, here's the thing. I meant to say that. You know.
Here we go.
The generation gap. The generation gap, Dan. You want to see it when I'm watching matches with him. You know, Shane is my nephew, Brian's best friend, who he named in his all-time 5-a-side team, by the way, on the coaching badges.
Absolutely.
The generation gap. I'm stopping it and I'm saying, look at that fella there. He should be in there. Look at that for defending. I'd bleed duck him his wages if he defended like that for me. Right? So I'm stopping it, and they're going mad that I'm stopping it and rewinding it, the coaching points, right? And they're driving me mad because they're spending the whole time on Twitter talking about the match.
You're as bad as...
Put the phones out and watch the match.
You're as bad as Gary Zambra. I was over in Wales when Ireland beat Wales with the Zambras, and we're getting the boat home the next day, and we won, James McLean header. And Gary is still analysing our lack of defending during the match.
That's the worst about defenders. That's the worst about coaches. You see, once you learn...
like, the match is over last night. We won. We're in the playoff.
Once you do it, once you start going, you'll never stop. If you ever take over the team now, you'll never stop. Right? No. This is the thing. The players come up and they play their game and they do their training, they go home. The manager goes home and lies awake at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, we'll leave you on that note, Larry. Thanks so much.
And this is Division 3Z. You can imagine the pressure that the Premier managers, the professional managers are under, because that's what a junior manager does, a junior coach. They never stop thinking about it, you know.
This is it.
Come here. You're a star. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, fellas. I appreciate the chat.
We'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah,
thanks for your time.
Thanks, Neil, Lar. Take care.
Nice to meet you, Dan. Nice to meet you.
Mate. You too. Take care of yourself.
Later. Larry forgot to mention he is current manager of Enniskerry, Danny. And Shane is going into I don't know if it is his final season, but he's been playing for Enniskerry for the last number of years. So I can't believe you forgot to mention the great Enniskerry in the interview. I suppose it's all the talking he did, Danny.
I was going to
stories.
He was very excitable, and we were trying to get him to go down memory lane, and it seemed as though he was focusing so much on memory lane he forgot about present day. So, but as you said, Enniskerry and friend of the show, the great Shane Fitz, doing bits up there with Enniskerry. So great crack.
So that was the great Larry. And how are you for the rest of the week, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, head down, keep pedaling, my friend. That's where I'm at the moment. You know, I'm with restrictions lifted and everything else. I get to officially visit the parents. I'm happy about that. You know what I mean? Get to give me ma a hug and not feel guilty because she's had her jabs and whatnot. And you know, so things are looking up, man. Things are looking up. All we need now is those Air Jordans sorted for June next year, and we're laughing.
I haven't hassled your other half in a while over it, so
that was just a general reminder for you to pick up that baton, please.
Okay. Danny's getting married next June. I'm a groomsman, and I'm trying to persuade the wife to allow us to wear Air Jordans with our suits. And I'd say she went from a 99% to that's far too high. I'd say she's about 15% there. So I still have to work on it. Another 85% and we get it over the line.
Yeah, there's time to chisel away there, don't worry. I'll let you know when she's in a good mood. And then
just send me the text. Oksana's in a good mood. And then I always say, hey Oksana, Graham again. Just wondering, have you given any consideration to the Air Jordans for the wedding day? Amazing. Oh, away! With our mad, culty Russian accent. Anyways, to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can search WTS Pod on all podcast providers. I use Podcast Republic, Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. You can also go to WTSpod.com. He's at Banjo Murray on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Merrigan Mania on Twitter and Instagram. And that's it. And until next week.
That's it.
Where we have a returning guest who we get every year. So
say no more.
Say no more.
Until then, my friend, clear eyes.
Full hearts.
Can't lose.
Too sweet.